Ohio State just came off of one game where it got tested pretty well by a tough defense, regardless of the 54-10 final score. Believe it or not, go watch the game. Iowa actually did a pretty good job of slowing them down in certain spots, and now they're going up against a Penn State defense that is probably as equally as good or better in the secondary, at least. An interesting matchup for these Ohio State receivers. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Means. We were talking to C.J. Stroud today. We were talking to Julian Fleming tonight here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center about what they're expecting to see. What did Julian Fleming have to say about the specific match? I mean, they've got Joey Porter Jr. is the one that most people know, partially because of his name, but also because he's having one of the best seasons of any defensive back in the country. C.J. Stroud actually called him the best defensive back in the country, other than Ohio State's DBs, of course. Kalen King, the other guy at corner, Jair Brown, the safety that they have there is a veteran safety who's one of the better ones in the Big Ten, if not the country. What did Julian Fleming have to say about how they're going to match up with those guys?
There seems to be – this is the first week where Ohio State's wide receivers can actually be challenged because there's more than one Riley Moss. There are other guys who can hold their own. The one thing and this has been like a theme the last 3 years basically, is Ohio State's wide receivers are habitually 5 yards open down the field because they're just that much better than whoever's covering them. That might not be the case every single time because a lot of the guys you just named who can all hold their own in coverage, especially in man coverage when you need to be a little bit more sound in your coverage there. So that seems to be more of the message there is windows might be a little bit tighter. Some catches might be a little bit more contested, because they're not going to be 5 yards open where you can just go up and get it. There may be a few more 50-50 balls, and so you're going to see who's really good and who's not at this point. No, I'm not saying that all of a sudden we're going to think Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, and Julian Fleming aren't good, but it's a little bit of a higher level of opponent this week. I'm not going to say talent equated because I think our Texans are sick of that statement as well. But this might be the most challenged this wide receiver unit is the entire regular season, especially until we get into a playoff situation. And so it's going to be a good thing to see if they can upstand that.
You mentioned Iowa's Riley Moss. He was a guy that was over the top of Marvin Harrison Jr. a lot last week. Also was on Emeka Egbuka sometimes, depending on how Ohio State was lining those guys up. And the matchup between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Joey Porter Jr. is interesting for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's two guys with an NFL pedigree, like a serious NFL pedigree, like among the best players in the game during their careers. But also, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s one of his biggest assets is he's 6'4", 205. Well, Joey Porter Jr. is like 6'2", 190. Like you're starting to get not just talent equated, but like size equated, which Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't see a lot. And if they put Porter over the top of him a lot, I'm curious how that is potentially something Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have to adjust to in this game. Last week I think he had 61 yards and a touchdown on 7 receptions. So he was still able to be productive despite that extra attention that Iowa was giving him, putting him one of their best DBs on him. He's going to probably have to find a way to perform through that. Tonight after practice, we obviously looked to see who is practicing and not among the guys who've been banged up. They let us in a little bit later, I think, tonight because they didn't want us getting eyes on some guys, including Jackson Smith and Jigbo. I didn't see him. I don't think anybody saw him, but most of the players were cleared out of the indoor here before we got in, so don't have an update on him tonight. We'll ask Ryan Day about that Thursday in his lightning round availability after his radio show. But regardless of whether Jackson Smith and Jigbo plays, I think that is still an intriguing matchup. One of the bigger ones, I think, in the Big Ten this year, putting a big corner like Joey Porter on a big receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr. and seeing who comes out ahead in that matchup. Much more about this on the Buckeye Talk preview show that we will drop later this week, and get the text 614-350-3315 so we can tell you what's happening at Beaver Stadium before kickoff with Jackson Smith and Jigba, with everybody else from Buckeye Talk.